Hello and welcome to NBA Synopsis, a weekly video series where I give my thoughts on the current NBA events. Today I give my early overreactions on the Raptors, the imploding Wizards, and free throws? Let's jump right in. Raptors president Masai Ujiri took one of the biggest gambles of his professional career when he traded away franchise favorite DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard over the summer. There is no question who the better player is, but it is a gamble considering that Kawhi is in the last year of his deal, and he has reportedly made it clear that Los Angeles is his preferred destination. Or his agent, Uncle Dennis, said that. At this point, who knows? Either way, the Raptors made a seismic change. A 59-win team added a player who, when last healthy, was a top 5 player and a perennial MVP candidate. It was the reason most people, like myself, saw the Raptors as the best team in the East heading into the season, with all due respect to Boston. There was a wait-and-see approach with some when trying to figure out how good this Raptors team would be. Would Kawhi be healthy? Would he be engaged? Well, I think those concerns have been answered. The Raptors have been on an absolute tear since the season started. They have been killing teams with their army of two-way guards and wings led by Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard. The Raptors' offense has been clicking on all cylinders so far, as they have the third best offensive rating in the NBA. The floor is spread with more shooters, and there is a clear pecking order on offense with Kawhi and Lowry as the main horses, while the shot distribution trickles down to the other players. Lowry in particular has been on a tear himself, averaging 18.5 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 11.1 assists on a 65 true shooting percentage. The shooting percentages are starting to level out after coming out of the gates blazing, but with a more spread court and playing next to a top 5 player, his true shooting percentage could finish in the low 60s by season's end, something he has done one other time in his career. Kawhi isn't even fully back to a normal Kawhi, and he is still unbelievable on both ends of the floor. So far, he is having a 50-40-90 season while averaging 27.3 points per game, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. And of course, you got the usual great defense. Speaking of defense, the Raptors' defensive rating is 10th in the NBA, but I wouldn't let that number fool you. This Raptors defense is elite. They have had some lapses so far this season, letting teams back into games when they should have been blowouts in the first place, but by season's end I expect the Raptors defense to finish in the top 5. They have a lot of two-way wings and guards, and head coach Nick Nurse is able to throw out all kinds of different and versatile lineups that can guard modern NBA offenses. I personally think that one of the aspects of the Kawhi trade that no one is talking about enough is that Danny Green was involved in that trade. It really pushed the Raptors' depth of two-way wings and guards from good to just having an embarrassment of riches with two-way players. Danny Green has been one of the best 3-and-D players in the NBA for a long time, a player that slid right into the starting lineup along with Kawhi. Moving Serge Ibaka to the 5 might have salvaged his career. Moving Pascal Siakam to the starting lineup at the 4 gives the Raptors ridiculous length and quickness to defend the interior and the perimeter. And then you top it off with Kyle Lowry, who even at his age is still a smart, savvy, and physical defender. There, you have a starting lineup that has been decimating teams with a 26.1 net rating. And if you thought the Raptors bench was one of the best in the NBA last season, I think that the bench this season has the potential to be better. OG Anunoby, a 6'7" wing from Indiana who started 62 games as a rookie, has been moved to the bench. Fred VanVleet, who was the best bench player on the Raptors last season, is not even back yet from injury. DeLon Wright is back from his injury, and Jonas Valanciunas, who has also been moved to the bench, has been underrated for the last few seasons. The Raptors can mix and match all kinds of lineups because they can legitimately go 9 players deep, or 10 if CJ Miles ever figures out how to shoot a 3 again. To me, the Raptors are currently the best non-Warriors team in the NBA, and they're going to finish the season as the best non-Warriors team in the NBA. I know Bucks fans are going to scream at me when they watch this video, "Well, what about us? We've had a great start to the season too." Don't worry, I was high on your team before the season started. In fact, you can go to part 1 of my NBA predictions video for proof, and don't worry, I will do a video on your team soon. Wait a minute, you mean to tell me the Wizards are imploding and Dwight Howard hasn't even played a game yet? Well, actually, when you think about it, it's not surprising. No, I'm serious. I didn't have time to make a part 2 video for my preseason NBA predictions, but I did put up the rest of my predictions on Twitter. I had the Wizards imploding and missing the playoffs. There is just too much stink surrounding this team, for lack of a better term. They look out of sorts defensively. They're 26th in the NBA in defensive rating, allowing 114.1 points per 100 possessions, and they have too many long stretches where they can't hit any shots at all, ranking 24th in offensive rating. From top to bottom, the team and the organization just look like a complete disaster. Players are already sniping at teammates in the locker room, and we're not even 10 games into the season. Scott Brooks called out Otto Porter by name as someone who was complaining about not getting enough shots, and like I mentioned earlier, Dwight Howard isn't even back to join in on this chemistry bomb. That's like the equivalent of adding Mentos to a liter of Coke. The Wizards have a lot of talent, so they won't have a 14 winning percentage forever, but it is fair to wonder when it's time to start blowing up this team. I have been a big John Wall fan, but he has never really been in the upper echelon of elite point guards. I think Kevin O'Connor put it best on a recent NBA podcast with Chris Vernon that John Wall is the worst elite point guard in the NBA. John Wall is 28, can't seem to ever get in shape, and for a guard that can't really shoot consistently and relies on athleticism, I would be completely terrified of the contract extension that is set to kick in next year. That contract is pretty close to untradeable. Next season, Wall is set to make $37 million and then at least $40 million in years 2, 3, and 4. Otto Porter and Bradley Beal have 2 years left on their current deal after this season, worth over $27 million per year. And let's see, browsing through the Wizards roster, who else has a bad contract on this team? Oh my god, Jan Mahimi makes $15 million this year and next season? This team is cap-strapped with players who have said they don't like each other, have showed on the court that they don't like each other, have had a history of talking copious amounts of junk and never backing it up, and top out at less than 50 wins every year. I personally think a shakeup needs to happen. I would actually start with Bradley Beal. He has actually been the Wizards' best player over the last 2 seasons and so far this year, and he's on a reasonable contract for a young 25-year-old with upside. Otto Porter would be next on my list, and although he is overpaid, he does bring a ton of value on the court as a 25-year-old 6'8" wing who has improved every year as a shooter. If I were blowing up this team, those would be my 2 players I would look to move first. They bring the most value to accumulate assets, unlike that John Wall contract that I mentioned earlier. I don't know if the Wizards front office will look to blow up the team this year, but the longer they wait, the more players depreciate in value. And how do they expect this season to get any better? They signed Jeff Green and they're banking on the return of Dwight Howard to save their season. I'm out. I know it's in vogue for the analytics crowd and quote-unquote woke basketball fans to pick apart and dismiss volume scorers who aren't good on the defensive end of the floor, but it is worth noting how freaking good Zach LaVine has been so far this season. The efficiency he has put up as a scorer has been nothing short of amazing. He has always been a really good three-point shooter, but so far in this young season, he's been more than just a three-point shooter. LaVine is averaging 28.1 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 3.6 assists, and is doing this while shooting 83% from the free throw line on a career-high 7.5 attempts per game. LaVine so far has a really good 62.7 true shooting percentage, and per Cleaning the Glass, the stat database website created by Ben Falk, LaVine is shooting 67% at the rim, 41% on all mid-range jump shots, and 40% on three-pointers. LaVine's dribble drive game seems to be more advanced, now that he has an additional year removed from the ACL surgery back in the 2016-17 season. His explosiveness and first step seem to be more deadly than ever. He's finishing through contact, powering off of 2 feet, and is quietly dunking in traffic more. The thing that always struck me about LaVine's absurd athleticism is that I always thought he would rather jump over a guy rather than through a guy like a power dunker would. But seeing him cram it in traffic after blowing by a defender is just great to see. It also shows that he has complete confidence in that surgically repaired knee. I also think the 3.1 assists are something to note because in watching most of the Bulls games this season compared to last season, it seems like LaVine is really making a concerted effort to be unselfish and get other players involved, which to me shows he's willing to grow his offensive portfolio. He is averaging 4 turnovers a game so far, but with the mismatch of players that are on that roster, you would be hard-pressed not to have that many turnovers considering LaVine's usage rate is 34.3. LaVine's defense is still bad. Though it's not through effort, it's just that he's not good at everything else. But to give him some credit, he has had some key defensive plays in some of these close games so far this season. He is at least aware that he needs to be better on that end of the floor. The defense is the reason that everyone was in a frenzy about the Bulls matching the Kings' offer sheet to LaVine over the summer. But if LaVine is able to sustain these efficient numbers, and that remains to be seen of course, then that contract instantly becomes valuable. If you're putting up those type of numbers at $19.5 million per year, then it really doesn't matter how bad you are on defense, because the offensive output is more than worth it to leave you out on the floor. Let's hope LaVine continues to sustain that improvement throughout the season. It seems that DeAndre Jordan is following what Andre Drummond did last year, but has taken it to a whole other level. Jordan, a career 45% free throw shooter, is shooting 82.4% from the free throw line so far this season. I don't know what happened or what clicked for DJ. The shooting form looks the same, and it's always been a good form. Just for whatever reason, he just had trouble making free throws. This is pure speculation on my part, but maybe playing in his home state and not playing in the scope of LA, even if it is the Clippers, helped him in terms of nerves at the line. Either way, this jump in free throw percentage reminds me of what Andre Drummond did last season. Drummond was a career 38% free throw shooter before the 2017-18 season, but a change in routine, a more soft shot, and an exaggerated knee bend rose Drummond's percentage to 62%, and so far this season, he is shooting 61%. Now DJ has followed suit and almost doubled his free throw percentage. I don't think that percentage will stay in the 80s, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him finish in the high 60s. Either way, I'm rooting for DJ to keep knocking down his free throws, because it seems like he has become more confident in it, and quite frankly, I'm here for it. He even hit 2 key free throws against the Lakers on Wednesday night. This is one of those random, fun little wrinkles that hoop junkies are going to keep track of the whole season, and I am throwing myself into that category. That's it for the NBA Synopsis. I'll see you guys next time.